Draco is the newest legendary brawler coming to the game, and he is the first brawler in a mad evil manor trio. And he's very good at telling stories to people that come to Star Park. He shreds on his electric guitar, he puts on crazy fireworks shows at his concerts, and he rides around on his inflatable dragon that breathes fire.
Draco! My dragon brings all the flames to flight, and dang right, they'll burn you up. Metal Warriors, #1!
Stick around to the end of the video for all of his voice lines and pins. Draco's main attack is Lance Stab. He uses his electric guitar to fire a sharp beam of electricity over a short distance. Now this attack pierces through targets, and if Draco is able to hit a target with the very tip of the attack, it will deal double the damage. So if Draco has a damage boost, hitting a target at max range will increase the damage exponentially instead of just an extra 1,200 damage. Draco's super is Dragon Solo. For his super, he hops onto his inflatable dragon and acquires a completely different main attack and several stat buffs. This new main attack has one ammo bar and shoots flames in a wide fan shape just by aiming the attack. It's actually very similar to Amber's main attack. But one major difference between his attack and Amber's is that these flames do not pierce through targets. Also, Draco fires 4 different projectiles with each ammo that travels in 4 different directions instead of one single flame that fires right after another. As for the stat buffs, his movement speed increases by 20% in his dragon, and all damage he receives is reduced by 25%, making him an insanely awesome tank. Draco's first gadget is Uppercut. This gadget makes it so that Draco's next Lance Stab knocks anything it hits into the air. Now, since his main attack can hit multiple targets, this gadget can send multiple enemies straight into the air. It doesn't deal any extra damage, and it doesn't knock them back far enough to hit them over a wall, but you can think of it as like a little stun since they can't do anything in the air, and it will interrupt them as well. That being said, they also can't take any damage while in the air, so it's kind of like a worse stun. Draco's second gadget is Last Stand. When this gadget is activated, Draco gets a shield that prevents him from dying for 2 seconds. He still takes damage normally, but if an attack would cause his health to go down to 0 or below, it just goes down to 1 health instead. But he does still get hit by attacks if he's at 1 HP. So for example, if you poison him, he will survive for the 2 seconds, but if he's still poisoned after losing the shield, he'll take damage normally and die. Now, B used to have a star power very similar to this, and it was pretty broken if I remember correctly. So we'll see what happens to this gadget. Draco's first star power is Expose. With this star power equipped, a red bar below Draco's ammo bar will fill up every 5 seconds. If it's full, Draco's next attack will mark every enemy that is hit by the attack. Marked enemies from this ability will take 35% more damage from all sources, but the mark only lasts for 5 seconds. Because the bar fills up every 5 seconds though, this is the perfect timer for when a marked enemy is going to lose their mark. Draco's second star power is Shredding. This star power simply heals Draco for 2,750 health every time he uses his super. Even if Draco is already mounted on his super, he'll just remount and get that 2,750 more health. Draco really doesn't have much range on either of his forms, but he does have the common tank trait that charges his super whenever he takes damage, so he should be able to get his dragon at least once a match, if not a lot more. Now that we've gone over all of Draco's abilities, we're gonna put him up against every other brawler in the Brawl Stars Olympic tests. We'll start with his worst and work our way up to his best. Then we'll talk about how strong I think he's gonna be. First up is the attack range test. Draco's main attack reaches across 4 1/3 tiles, which just barely puts him further than Rose's main attack, and that's enough to put him in 71st place. Next is the swarm test. Draco can hit 6 bots at once with his attack, but his star power doesn't actually help him in this test since the bots are destroyed with 2 attacks either way. Now, I tried to use his super to take out the bots, but since the flames don't pierce, he needs more than 1 super to take them out, so it actually takes much longer than if he would just use his regular main attack. Draco defeats the swarm in 13.1 seconds and gets 66th place. Next is the super range test. Now, technically, Draco's super doesn't actually have any range since it's just him mounting onto his dragon, but I thought it'd make a little bit more sense to measure this range with his fire-breathing attack. It's much wider than his regular attack, and it reaches a little further at 6 tiles, so Draco ties with Nita for 64th place. Next is the assassin test. The most damage over 3 seconds that Draco can deal is done just by using his fire-breathing attack with a full bar of ammo. I tried to see if marking the boss with his star power and then using his super would help, but it takes too much time for him to get into his super, and it also uses a third of his ammo bar, so his super doesn't actually last as long. Now, if Draco stays on top of his dragon the whole time, he's able to deal 8,880 damage, but with his dragon, he deals 10,240 damage and gets 61st place. Next, we have the supercharge test. Not only does Draco's attack deal double the damage if you land it at the very edge, but it also doubles the amount of supercharged. So, with 4 attacks that all hit at max range, Draco charges his super in 3.5 seconds, so he ties with RT for 61st place. Next, we have the super damage test. Once again, mounting onto his dragon doesn't really do any damage, so to test his damage, I just tapped once. Each projectile deals 160 damage, so 4 of them makes a total of 640 damage, and that's enough to put Draco in 60th place. Next is the 1 second DPS test. And unlike the assassin test, Draco actually deals more damage within 1 second by staying out of his dragon. He has to mark the target first with his star power, and then he can land 2 shots at max range within 1 second. Draco deals 6,480 damage, and that puts him in 58th place. Next is the area test. Draco breaks 2 rows of 4 skulls with his regular attack, and then breaks 31 skulls with his fire breathing. Neither of Draco's gadgets deal any damage, so he breaks a total of 39 skulls and ties with Sprout for 57th place. Next, we have the boss test, and I kind of already figured this out from the assassin test, but just to be safe, I tested to see which was faster between staying off the dragon completely and using his dragon as much as possible. The fastest way is to use a full ammo bar with the dragon, then hop off in order to reload faster, and then hop on again to unload another full bar of ammo. Draco defeats the boss in 43.8 seconds, so he ties with Chester for 48th place. Now for the rest of these tests, Draco is better than half of the brawlers in the game. And next is the splash test. Draco's able to hit 3 full rows of boxes with his regular attack, and he can even mark boxes with his star power. So this method is much faster than using his super. As soon as he opens the first 3 rows, he has enough power cubes to break open the last 3 with just 3 hits. He completes the splash test in 11.6 seconds and gets 39th place. Next, we have the 3 attack kill test. Draco technically could do more damage with 3 attacks if his targets were already marked, but it's more useful to fire 3 attacks right after each other in this test. So he marks the enemy with his first attack and then deals extra damage with the next 2. All 3 shots hitting at max range, of course. He's able to deal 8,880 damage, which is enough to take out 62 of the brawlers in the game and puts him in 38th place. Up next is the race test, and the only thing Draco has in this test to help him is his super, which gives him a 20% speed buff. His dragon almost makes it all the way across the entire test before he hops off, and he finishes the race test in 10.8 seconds. This actually ties him with Colt and RT for 34th place. Next, we have the reload test. Now, if you haven't already noticed from previous tests, Draco's forms each share an ammo bar, so it's not like Meg, where she gets full ammo after jumping into her mecha. Reloading the dragon is way slower than reloading on foot, so make sure you have plenty of ammo before using Draco's super. Draco unloads and reloads shots in 16.5 seconds. That puts him in 25th place. Up next is the auto-aim test. Since Draco's super breathes fire just by holding down the fire button, he can consistently hit enemies at max range just by auto-aiming. By the time Nita moves past his range, she's taken 4,000 damage and from 6 tiles away. That's enough to put Draco in 18th place. Next is the box test, and like we saw in the splash test, Draco can mark boxes with his super and hit them all in a group at the same time. However, he can't hit boxes in larger groups with the very edge of his attack, so he only deals double damage to some of the boxes. Draco still finishes the box test in 30.9 seconds, so he gets 17th place, and this suggests he's going to do a really good job at ramping up in damage in solo showdown. But his best test is the survival test. Draco has 11,000 health, which is the 4th most health in the game, and this is the only test where his other star power and his other gadget are useful. He's able to recover 2,750 health by using his super, and he takes reduced damage the whole time he's on his dragon. Once he's about to die, he pops his gadget to hang on at 1 health for just a couple extra seconds and survives for 43.1 seconds, and that gets him 15th place. So, how good is Draco in all of the game modes? Let's talk about it, then I'm going to show all of his voice lines and pins. First up, we have Gem Grab, and Draco doesn't have very much area control at all, which makes me think is not going to be super good in Gem Grab because it's really important for that game mode. He certainly doesn't have the range to be carrying the gems, so the only thing he's probably decent for is putting aggressive pressure on the enemy team, but he doesn't have nearly as much burst damage as a lot of other aggressive brawlers in the game. I'll give him B tier for gem grab, but that even might be a little bit generous. As for Brawl Ball though, definitely S tier. This is going to be his best game mode because of his second gadget. His gadget, coupled with the speed and damage reduction from his super, will basically force the enemy team to have some sort of a knockback ability just to get the ball out of his hands. If they don't, he'll be able to run the ball into the goal every single time because he'll just be invincible for those few seconds. And if that gadget does not get nerfed, yeah, he's gonna be S tier in Brawl Ball, like absolutely. As for Heist, he does not deal the most damage over time over long periods, and even with his super, he doesn't deal as much damage to the safe unless he's like right next to it. The only thing keeping him from being in the F tier for Heist is the fact that his first star power can actually mark the safe, so at least his teammates will be able to deal extra damage to the safe, even if he can't. So I think C tier makes sense for Heist. As for Bounty, F tier, man. He definitely does not have the range in either of his forms to be a good bounty brawler. Other brawlers with short range usually have some sort of ability that can get them closer to enemies, but I really don't think that that's going to be easy for Draco, at least not to get close enough to good bounty brawlers. Even with his super, I feel like I just have to put him in the F tier. Next we have Hot Zone, and honestly, I'm tempted to give him A tier for Hot Zone. However, I'm going to go with B tier. His survivability alone is going to make him a decent brawler for Hot Zone, and even though he can't provide the most consistent map control, it's going to be so hard for the team to stay in the zone if Draco has his super and a full bar of ammo. Plus, he has so much HP that he's a tank. He's gonna be able to stay in the zone for so long and apply that aggression the whole time. The reason why I'm not giving him an A tier is the fact that he's not going to be very good on long range open maps, but on other maps where he's gonna have a little bit of like, protection, he's gonna be pretty solid for Hot Zone, seriously. Next we have Knockout, and he might be slightly better in Knockout than in Bounty just because he has the option to wait for the smoke to bring enemies in closer, but I don't think so. Unless he can survive clear up until that point, he's not going to be able to do so much with his short range. Fortunately, I have to give him F tier for Knockout as well. As for Solo Showdown, I'm going to go with B tier, maybe A tier. He doesn't have the most burst damage for 1v1 interactions in Solo Showdown, but he does have a crazy amount of health, and his second gadget can keep him from getting ambushed. He just lacks the offense to be able to be like a top tier brawler for this mode, so B tier kind of makes sense for him. And honestly, Duo Showdown, he might be a little bit better in because of how much damage he can like potentially tank for his teammate. And once he's able to charge his super, his teammates can follow right behind him in pretty much any fight, right? But he's kind of like the same situation for Solo Showdown where he lacks the range. Think of like a Frank. Frank and Jackie, they just get picked on so much in Solo Showdown, and I think that that's probably going to be very similar for Draco, though he's not going to be completely awful. If you ask me, Draco really seems to lack the offense necessary for him to be a top tier brawler right now, and I could be completely underestimating him because his defensive stats are really good, so let me know what you guys think, and maybe he needs some buffs, and if you buff him, how would you do so? That's all I have to say, but stick around for all of his voice lines and pins. Subscribe for future sneak peeks because this is the best place to get them.
Seek and destroy! To the thrill, play to kill.
Seek and destroy.
Stabbity stab! Fancy Lancy! The Ace of Blades! Power Chord! Dive Bomb! I got shredded! Blech.
Epic quest fail.
Oh, woefully wiped out! Epic quest fail. Epic quest fail! From kickflip to kickflop. Woefully wiped out. Failed the saving throw. But my spirit remains unbroken. You need a nerf. You need a nerf. Oh, medieval mosh pit mayhem. Medieval mosh pit mayhem. A formidable foe. I'll best you for show. A formidable foe. Well, I'll best you for show. You better be nice, or I'll get my dice. Oh, you better be nice, or I'll get my dice. You better be nice, or I'll get my dice. You want a toast? Get ready to roast. Woo-hoo! Total party kill! Ha ha! Total party kill! Ha!
Let the brawlers hit the floor. Let the brawlers hit the floor.
Just kidding. Battle magic mayhem! Dragon roar! Dragon rider, pain provider.
Dragon roar.
Draco! Dragon roar! Dragon Rider, Pain Provider, Metal Magic Mayhem! Turning it up to 11. Turning up to 11! Master of Muppets! Master of Muppets! Guitars wail when my enemies fail! Rumble and roar, to the top I soar! Rumble and roar, to the top I soar! Da-na-na-na-na-na! Let's thrash, slash, bash, and dash! Winging it! Dragon style! D20 in hand, dragon at my command. Time to shred some foes! You see me rolling? You waiting? My dice, my dragon, my destiny! Enter the Dragon Man! Metal Warriors, number 1! Say your prayers, little one! Time to shred some foes! I will rock you! Draco! My dragon brings all the flames to flight, and dang right, they'll burn you up! My dragon brings all the flames to the fight! Fired up and ready to roast! Flame War! Flame War! Dragon Breath!
Dragon breath!
Inflate-O Dragon! Inflate-O Dragon!